welcome back to episode 144 of Talkoffamepod with your host, Kylie Montini. On today's episode, we are joined by Caley Rose. She's an award-winning singer-songwriter. Thanks so much for joining, Caley. I'm super excited to chat.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so you empower women and youth with your music with a message program in which you bring confidence tools into schools across the country. Why do you think confidence is so important, like in everyday lives, not just like for young kids but adults?
Yeah, totally. So, yeah, like you said, I have this program. It's called Music with a Message, and I've worked with women's charities. I've brought music into schools. I say I bring confidence tools into schools. I think confidence and self-esteem are two of the most important tools you can possibly have, particularly because I didn't have any for a very long time. So I know what it's like living life with no confidence and no
Mhm.
self-esteem. And it wasn't a fun way to live. It affected everything, my friendships, my relationships, my work, my play. And I had to work hard to get to a place where I had built my self-confidence up, and being on the other side is so much better. I like to say that I went from a place of like really not liking myself to liking myself to loving myself, because I think so often when I was growing up, people would say, "Oh, just be confident, love yourself." And you were just kind of like, how? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, sure, someone tell me how. So I am trying to take that ambiguity away from it by putting those self-esteem tools into my music and using my music to make people feel inspired, make people feel empowered. My new song that just came out, Stand Up, it literally says, stand up, you deserve to be here. Stand up, this is your year. And I think the more you say kind words to yourself, empowering words to yourself, the more you begin to replace the negative thoughts with positive thoughts, because every day we have like a billion thoughts all at
Mhm.
once. And so we can choose which ones to focus on and which ones to believe and which ones to act on. So you can act on the positive ones and not the negative ones.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like I love like you're doing that because like I suffer with confidence and self, like kind of
Yeah.
love like growing up as well. Like I didn't do anything in my childhood because I was so like not confident in myself. And I was
Yeah.
so like kind of very shy as a kid, which is
Yeah.
kind of unbelievable to some people. They're like, how are you
Yeah.
so shy? But like even like as a kid, like that kind of held me back. It's like, oh, I didn't have any confidence. Like most of my childhood I missed out on because of not having
I'm
confidence.
sorry. I know
Yeah,
it
this
stinks, right?
really does had not suck because like obviously negative thoughts control over positive. Like you
Yeah.
should focus on positive, but then like when you try to think about positive, you come with the negative and you're like, how do I control that? How can I think about positive? Like how am I supposed to love myself?
Yeah. See, I gave you the big nod there. That's because sometimes you're nodding along with people and then you're like, oh yeah. It's so true. And it feels like, well, how am I supposed to control it? And I think some people follow the whole like fake it till you make it
Oh yeah.
belief, which it might work for some people. It didn't work for me. I needed to really, really believe what I was saying when I was saying, okay, I really do like myself, because I didn't like spending time alone. I hated it.
Oh
And
yeah.
that comes from not liking my own company. And yourself is the only thing you have for the rest of your life that's guaranteed. Like, we have a lot of sci-fi stuff, but we have not figured out how to change bodies and souls and minds yet. And I don't think we ever do, and we shouldn't have to, because loving yourself is a tool and a skill that you can build. It's not like some people are just confident and some people are just not, and they have to accept that. You can work on it, which is why I was like, okay, well, let's put this into like actionable tools to bring into schools and to bring to people who need it. Like I needed it, but nobody was giving me those specific tools.
Like that's like the worst part is like oftentimes people don't really talk about it because they're like, oh, I'm
Mhm.
so ashamed of kind of feeling like that. But then
Yeah.
like everyone goes through it in some type of way. Like you don't get better unless like you talk about it. That's like something kind of I learned that I wish I talked about because like
Yeah.
if you don't like kind of talk about it, then it probably won't get better unless like you know
Totally.
how to control it.
And once you get brave enough to say, hey, I feel this way, and it's like scary to admit this, and it feels weird or difficult, then I feel like a lot of people will turn around and say, wait, I feel that way too. I feel that way too. But it takes one person being brave and speaking out. And like you're saying, I think sometimes we look at other people Like there was this girl in high school that to me had the most confidence of anyone I had ever seen. But I should probably like interview her someday or talk to her about it because she probably was going through her own stuff. You know, everyone
Mhm.
has issues that we're dealing with. And when we put people on a pedestal, and we think, oh, they must be perfect. I think a lot of us look to celebrities and we think they must have the perfect life and the most confidence, and it's just not the case.
Mhm.
I still struggle with things. Yesterday, I'll share this, I'll be honest about this. I was really having a lot of self doubt, and you feel like giving up. You feel like, is what I'm doing not enough? Am I not enough? All of those scary feelings come in sometimes more than others. But I think it's having tools to reach to, like journaling and positive self talk and mantras, and looking back on our old achievements and saying, okay, I did this brave thing. I did this brave thing. I made this accomplishment. I can probably do that again. History would tell me I could do
Mhm.
it again. And I think it's also having good people that surround you. I went to my husband and like got a big hug and got to talk about it. So having good people in your life that will help lift you up when you're feeling down is really helpful. And also letting yourself feel down and get those tears out sometimes is important too.
For
So many
sure. And like
things.
that's like I literally felt the same like yesterday too. Like I was
I'm sorry.
like
Oh,
oh my God, to be honest, like I was like, oh like last night I was like I had a long day. I was busy out of the house, like going to eat and stuff, and like asking myself like I have so much going on. I have so much work. Like how am I going to fit all these things in? Like how am I going to like kind of do these things I want to get these into my schedule when I have other things going on.
I get you.
And I'm like, should I still be doing this? Like, should I still have this much on my plate? But then I kind of like that, like this is the reason why I do what I do. I enjoy this work. It's more like doing what you love than just sitting around doing nothing and being bored
Yeah.
every single day.
Look at you. See? That's so wonderful. And like the way that you were able to turn it around. And I'm glad that we're both sharing. Like yesterday was a hard day. Today felt a little bit easier. Hopefully tomorrow will feel a little bit easier. And I think having those moments of like, something's not working, So maybe when you looked at your situation, you were like, cool, I want to take this off my plate and figure out a way to not have that, one thing in my life anymore. Because ideally, we're all living every day doing the things that we want to do. I think that like I have this theory that like every soul on earth is here to live their best life and do the things that they want to do. And we're not all here to do the same thing. Not
Mm,
everybody, I have friends who are like, I would never want to get on a stage and sing to people. And I'm like, well, that's my favorite thing.
mm,
Um, and like I have friends who want to be an accountant and that's what they love doing. And to me, I'm just like, I have zero interest in that. So, yeah, like when you had your day yesterday, figuring out I like to do these things and maybe I can ask for help in these two areas because asking for help is strong,
for
but
sure.
it's
There's
so hard.
nothing bad about asking for help. Like it just makes things a lot easier than it seems.
Totally. It's brave and sometimes it feels so difficult to do, but if it helps the greater good, we're helping one person. I have a friend who says, help one person every day because sometimes it feels insurmountable to try to help every young girl for me, or like every
Mhm.
woman. It's a lot. And so you just focus your message on that one person that needs to hear it. And like when you see, like I see you, Kylie, and I'm like, you're doing so amazing. Like
Mhm.
you've had 100 and what was it, 44 episodes of this podcast?
Yeah, 144, yeah.
Incredible. I like being 144. That's a good number. But truly, like when your friends see you from the outside, they can see you so much more clearly in some ways. And they're like, look at all this good stuff you're doing. But sometimes it's hard to see ourselves. And so that's why it's good to have people that can say, hey, Kylie, you're doing awesome.
Yeah, I
You
guess
know?
like need of like having at least like a close friends, matter I have like one or two friends or at least family that really kind of encourage you to be like, hey, like even if you don't feel this right now, like you're doing amazing. Even though
Hmm.
you might not feel it or you're stressed or you're like, what do I want to do? Like how do I kind of ease my schedule a bit so I can have time to focus on myself or my family or do things I enjoy? Like how do I do this? But then you
Totally.
just go to that one or two friends or your family or just close people that you know, be like, hey, like, do you have any advice on how to do things? I literally just asked that to my cousin yesterday when I was
Really?
texting him. I was like, can I have your advice on something? Like, can I ask you something? Like, do you have
Good
any
for
advice?
you.
But it's like like it's not too bad to ask for advice or ask for help. Like it's like it just makes things better and then it makes you so brave to ask about help. And so it just
Totally.
shows how brave you are.
Yeah, and it's not like only surround yourself with people who are gonna just say positive things. Like I want my husband to challenge me and say, "Hey, like the other day he was like, "You said you were gonna do this and you haven't been doing this. Are you happy not doing it or are you unhappy not doing it?" And I was like, "Honestly, you're right, Like I wanted to go perform live, but then part of me was like, "Oh, I just want to be on the couch and like cuddly." And he was like, "But you said you wanted to do it one time a week, and if you don't do that, how will you feel?" So knowing when to be encouraging and knowing when to challenge, it's a real balance. And
For
the right
sure.
people will know when to ask you those hard questions and when to bolster you and give you support.
And so like
Totally.
as you kind of like go back to the woman empowerment and stuff, like how did you become so passionate about it? Like how did you get so passionate about empowering youth and women and stuff like that?
Yeah. I mean, I was a girl who didn't feel empowered. I was bullied in middle school, and then it took my self esteem from here to here. And I know what living like that is like. I made a lot of poor decisions because of that. I looked for self love in guys. Like, I thought, like, oh, if I get the cute guy, that'll make me feel confident. And it never did. It never worked. So I really had to find it inside myself. And then I just kind of woke up one day last year, and usually I would have an idea, maybe write it down, maybe talk to people about it, maybe procrastinate, and not take action. But I just quickly started taking action. So I think that's also when you know that it's the right path, something in you feels compelled to move forward. So I started bringing music into schools and honing my message to reach the people that I really wanted to reach.
And this was that last year you started this, right?
Yeah, I started songwriting 5 years ago, and then I started the Music with a Message program just a year ago.
Like how do you like bring confidence like tools into schools? Like do you just do schools around you or you do schools like all around kind of US or out?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I've been doing it all over the country. I've done it in Kansas City, I've done it in North Carolina. I booked a show in Los Angeles last year, but then I was losing my voice, so I had to cancel it. But I'm gonna get them this probably May. So I'm gonna take it there, and then I'm gonna take it to New York in June. So it's gonna be all over the country. Basically, just like wherever I find an opportunity to travel, I want to bring the music there and connect with schools where I can. So someday, Pennsylvania,
Mhm.
I'm like, if you're close to New York, we could talk about it.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
we got like if you're like when are like are you going to the city or just kind of like the upper kind of part of New
I
York?
was talking to schools in, I think it's White Plains. So yeah,
Hmm.
close to New York. And then I was talking to schools in New York, but I can work it out. It's all workoutable. I think that's
Hmm.
another thing about confidence. Like I was talking to someone about this recently. If you see a problem, you can either have, I think it's a growth mindset or I forget what the bad one's called, but we don't even need to know about that one because we want the growth mindset.
Yeah.
Like if you see a problem and you're like, okay, this is figure outable versus if you see a problem and you see it as a roadblock. So I'm like, let's figure it out. Let's make it happen. And that I
Hmm.
think is the better I'll say healthier, more productive way to be.
For sure. And so like do you think adults suffer more with confidence or you think kind of kids suffer more in your opinion?
It depends. I mean, for me, like the path is going to be different for everyone. I feel like we come into this world and we're just ready to love, like babies, they love everyone, they love themselves, they're so confident, they're standing with their bellies out.
Hmm.
And then things might happen, where someone will say, "Oh, when you scratch your face like that, it's weird." And then they're like, "Oh, okay, people are perceiving this as weird." That was a weird example that I just gave, but whatever. But we start to learn how to fit in with society because that's what we're doing. We're trying to protect ourselves. And sometimes it feels like in order to protect ourselves and not be made fun of or bullied, we got to stay small and not stick our necks out and be different. But then through working on things, we actually start to realize, oh, that one thing that makes me different is it's everything has good and bad to it. So the one thing that I'm struggling with lately is my anxiety.
Hmm.
But my anxiety also fuels me to go out and live my life fully because I really realize every day I should be living it as my last. So, like,
Hmm.
my greatest fear is also my greatest asset, and things like that in our personality, like if I don't know, I'm like, if someone talks really loudly, that could be something that they use as, oh, this is my weakness. But there are ways to make it their strong suit. They could end up being like an announcer for a horse race. I don't know. there are ways for everyone to fit in, and it's just finding the right place for each of us, I think. Sorry, that
Hmm.
was a lot.
You're fine. Like, no, you're fine. Like that's totally actually true though, because even like if that's your weakness, that's something special about you. Like even if
Mhm.
it annoys people, like sometimes I get annoyed with things that my friends do or family do, but then like
Yeah.
it's just their weakness about how they kind of live life and how their personality is.
Yeah, and it's all in how you think about yourself.
Mm.
That's the
Yeah,
key.
like that's true because like no matter if you kind of judge on someone else, like that's kind of how you judge yourself. Like
Yeah.
even though you judge yourself, like it impacts the people you judge in your mind.
Yes. Absolutely. And judgment is for a reason. Like I like to say, like, oh, don't be judgmental. But we have to judge as humans. We're supposed to judge things. We're supposed to say, I like that color and not that one. I like
Mhm.
that situation. I want to move towards that. And I don't like that situation. I don't want to move towards that. So that's literally why we're here to judge things. And it gets negative when it's detrimental to other people, when it's being mean to other people. Judgment is not great. So
Mhm.
again, good and bad to everything.
Yeah. And so like
Yeah.
in terms of music, you just released a single called Stand Up, which you talked about a little bit earlier. Like what was the meaning behind it? Like what was kind of like the impact you wanted
Yeah.
your song?
Stand Up is a song I wrote with two of my favorite people to co-write with, Yeva and Lori. And we went into a songwriting session and we're three women who identify as women. And we were like, I feel like a lot of female empowerment songs are just like, they're not really grounded in anything and they're kind of like fluffy. So we were like, we want to write a female empowerment song that we can relate to and that we can feel is real. And
Mhm.
so that's how we started writing the lyrics. If you could see you like I see you, we were like, what it would be like if we were talking to a friend of ours. We would say, if you could see you like I see you, you wouldn't hide your light, blah, 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 which are the lyrics. And so we set out to write an empowerment song that we could enjoy and relate to.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Like, is that like kind of like the same thing for Storm? Like, I know you like it's gonna be released on April
Coming up.
7th. Like, was that
Yeah.
is it kind of similar to Stand Up too, or is it like totally different?
Yeah. So Storm is coming out on April 7th. I keep doing this on social media. It looks like a seventh, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's another empowerment song, but it has a different kind of sonic aesthetic to it. So it has like bigger, more dramatic crashes and sounds because I was envisioning a storm. And I actually used my baby as inspiration because she was getting up and starting to walk. And I was like, wow, nothing can stop you. Like, nothing can get in your way. You're a force. And I was like, oh, that's a song. I'm a force coming at you like a storm. And so it's all different flavors of empowerment because there's not one thing to say on this topic. There's so many things to say, and we all need inspirational songs to get us through the hard times. So I'll make a billion of them, and then people can choose whatever's their theme song in that moment.
Yeah, that's like that's a like kind of like the joy of having creating songs or singer-songwriters making songs that like everyone has a favorite song or a couple multiple songs to relate to. I have a million songs I'm like I listen to nonstop every single day that I never get bored of.
Me
Or
too.
sometimes I'm like, oh, I need like to like take a break from something. Like, oh, I probably take 5, 10 minutes to kind of enjoy myself. I'm like, oh, I go to Spotify, YouTube and put
Yeah.
my headphones in and be like jamming out to my favorite song that like those are kind of like the joy like of making music is that like it helps you in every situation that you're going through. Like it helps you
Yeah.
kind of empower yourself or what you're going through, like relationships or self-doubt or just feeling
Mhm.
lonely. Like sometimes you're like, oh, I feel so lonely. And like that's how I feel at some points. I'm like, oh, I feel lonely like right now. Like how do I stop feeling lonely? Or how do
Yeah.
I make time not to feel lonely? Like it's like every song has a relationship to kind of what you're going through.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are so many, like now, especially the day and age we live in on Spotify, there are so many different songs. So there's something for everyone. But yeah, it's the soundtrack to our lives. There was a time where, as a creative person, I was like, oh, what I do isn't as important as like my other, like we were talking earlier. I went to Columbia in New York, and a lot of my friends graduated and they became doctors and lawyers and finance people. And I would think like, oh, well, I'm just a singer. I'm not as important as them. But doctors, lawyers, finance people, they put on music to feel good. So what we're doing
Hmm.
is so important because we're helping people through those emotions and expressing it in ways that people might not be able to express in themselves.
Hmm. Yeah,
Mm.
for sure. And like your music has been featured in like commercials, like LinkedIn, Adobe, the Tomorrowland Music Festival, documentaries, and on Telemundo. I think that's how you say it. It's like a
Yeah.
Spanish type of thing. And received awards from the John Lennon Songwriting Contest, Mid Atlantic Song Contest, Empower Posty Music Awards, and so much more. Like, does it kind of feel to kind of be featured slash awarded in these kind of things?
It
Because that's
always
actually
feels
crazy to
good.
be really awarded and stuff for these things.
Yeah, I mean, it always feels really good because you're making things that you like and you hope other people will like. But I think it's a spectrum. Like, I could make a song that only I like and maybe other people will like it, or I could make something like for someone else that I don't even like, and that's not a great place to be. So, being in this like happy middle ground of I'm making things that I feel good about and that other people seem to connect to because they're using it, in their different opportunities and awarding it in different ways. So it feels really, really good.
Yeah, so and also like you've also been featured on Top 40 radio, TV, commercial, and film. Like, did you kind of ever expect to be featured in like any sort of like kind of entertainment, like radio, like
Yes.
TV, etc.?
Well, when I mean, I've always, always, always wanted to be a singer. When I was like, as soon as I could speak, I was singing. And then when I was 8 years old, I started voice lessons. And so I think if you dream it, you can do it. And then when it
Mhm.
happens, heard Beyonce speak about this recently. She was like, I can't, like, every performance that she's ever had, she's visualized before the performance happens. So she has such a clear vision in her mind of what she wants and then she takes steps to get there. So, yeah, I did see my music on the radio. In my mind, I sat there visualizing what it would feel like to sit in my car hearing my music coming out of the loudspeakers. It was Ryan Seacrest and I haven't gotten there yet, but I know that I will. So, I still have goals that I'm working towards every day,
Mhm.
but I think having the desire, and I also love to tell people like if you see something that you want, say, why not me? I could do it, and
Mhm.
take the steps and do the work and get the education to get there if that's what you want.
Yeah, like you're exactly right. Because like if you really want something that you see someone else getting, you're like,
Yeah.
how can I get that? Like how can I
Yeah.
make progress to get that? Like do I need to send emails? Like do I need to work harder? Like what should I do to get that? Like if
Awesome.
you really
Yeah.
want that.
And it can be jealousy and it can feel really, and like it's okay to like sit in your feelings for a little bit, but then pick yourself up and let it motivate, let it fuel you.
And
Yeah.
like did they tell you like you're going to be featured like on like TV, radio and stuff before it came out, or was it kind of like more like a surprise for you?
Yeah, I mean, for the radio things, I applied for it and they told me we would play it at this time on this day. For some of them, and then for others, I just heard afterward, like, hey, your music was playing in Syracuse, New York. And I was like, cool, that's awesome. So some, are planned and some are a pleasant surprise. But with
Hmm.
with the licensing placements, they're called, like when my music was in a documentary, they checked with us beforehand, is this okay? And all of that stuff. We signed paperwork and then it was in the documentary.
Like what
Yeah.
documentary was it like featured then?
It's called Beauty Isn't Pretty, and I don't think it's out yet. It's kind of confusing. We're trying to figure out where it is. So sometimes like they'll use your music and stuff, like a video game in Germany, I think one of our songs got used in, and I might just never find it or see it. Like you can try
Yeah.
to track it down, but there's so many projects going on. So as long as they're properly crediting you and, paying for the music, which they should be doing, then it's okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I want to see it all because it's really exciting to see your music to picture and game and all that stuff.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like he just knows you're doing like exactly where you need to be.
Yeah, it's exciting.
And like the last thing like I have for you, depending on time, is like what is some advice to upcoming singer-songwriters?
Oh, so much advice for an upcoming singer-songwriter. Um, I always thought it was very interesting. I think it was Megan Trainor's dad said that She wanted to be a singer and a songwriter, and he said, "Great, write 100 songs." And also relating that to Ed Sheeran, I heard Ed Sheeran say, like, when you turn on a old faucet, at first, like, all the sludge comes out, and then the clear water runs. And so he said, like, even if he's away from songwriting for a while, that's what he has to do: turn on the faucet and get out the sludge. So I think when you first start, you're learning, and that is fine. You should be learning. You should be like making mistakes, but there are no mistakes. But you might make things that you later look back on and you're just like, oh, that's not nearly where I am now as a songwriter. And so, like, letting yourself go through that process and being okay with it and not giving up. If it's something you want, keep with it, because write 100 songs, you're gonna get a couple that just like kind of stick out through the mix, that
Mhm.
are the ones that keep like knocking on the doors of your mind, I like to say. And the like the one song that's like, you should make me, you should record me and share me with the world. And then some of them you might write completely just for you because you're mad at your dog, you know. I don't know who would ever be mad at a dog, but but some songs you're gonna write just for you. So yeah, so much advice. I could keep going on and on.
Yeah, it's so much advice for one specific thing. I literally
Yeah.
the same way for me. I'm like, what advice should I give today on this episode, or what
Yeah.
advice should I give?
Well, yeah, you're doing with journalism what so many people, dream about doing, don't take action towards. So I'm just so impressed by you. And when
Thanks
you
so
put all this towards your college applications, it's going to be very impressive.
For sure. I was
They're going to look
legit
at,
talking about that with my mother like 2 days ago, actually, about it.
really?
I'm like, I'm
Aw.
gonna do more things. I can get into college. Like,
No, you're doing all the right things. Like when you show them 144 episodes, they're going to be like, she is living what she says she wants to do already. So I
mhm.
applaud you so much. You're so impressive.
Thank you so much. And thank you
You're
so much
welcome.
for coming for I don't know why I said coming, but coming on this podcast. It means so much. You seriously are amazing. I'm super honored to have you on the podcast. You're amazing. So much for taking the time to come on. I really do.
Thank you for having me. It's so good to talk to you. I just want to talk to you for forever.
I know, me too. I feel like this conversation will go on forever, even after this
Yeah.
like episode. It'll be on for a
Thank you
couple
so
hours.
much for having me.
Yeah, so thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I'll definitely talk to you soon.
I'm so impressed by you. So keep going. You're amazing.
Thank you so much. Same to you
Okay.
as well.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.